Imagine you're struggling with anxiety or depression, but can't seem to find the time or resources to seek professional help. What if there was a way to seamlessly integrate therapy into your daily life, right from your smartphone? We interviewed Florence Von Gunten, co-founder of ILA Blended Psychotherapy, to learn more about their innovative approach to mental health treatment. This episode is part of a series of 12 interviews brought to you by the Engage Institute and The Broker. Join me as we delve deeper into today's topic with Florence. I'm Philip, co-founder of the Engage Institute. We empower your employees and clients thanks to engaging insurance training such as expert interviews. Grow trusted advisors with us.
Today on the show, I have a great pleasure to welcome Florence Von Gunten. Hi, Florence. Good morning.
Hi, Phil. Good morning.
Florence, you are a psychologist and you're co-founder of ILA. We'll talk about that a bit later. I would like to start asking you, what is mental health?
Mental health describes actually the state of your mind or the healthiness of your brain.
Okay, so are we all healthy mentally, or are we all completely sick and mental?
That's to understand on a continuum. So you can be more or less mentally healthy or unhealthy. Yeah.
Do you have any statistics on the global scale? How many people are considered being unhealthy or healthy?
So actually, globally, it's about 1/3 to even almost half of all the people are affected within their lifespan from a mental disorder. And a mental disorder, it's when you reach on this continuum a cutoff that you feel or express a certain severity of symptoms.
What kind of mental health risks are there in a society?
So one of the highest risks is stress. At high stress level make us express more symptoms. And then it depends the person and maybe your weaknesses. With some people, maybe a high level of stress is then more expressed in anxiety, and other people maybe more depressive symptoms that can vary.
So would you count burnout as part of that? Is that a mental health risk?
Yes, so burnout stemming from high stress and mostly in the work environment can then really exceed a level so that you feel depressed, anxious, and burned out. So being exhausted in your ability to perform.
How do you recognize what mental health issues you have? It's kind of a simple test.
There are various simple tests you could find in the internet that may help you to get the idea, but I would never rely on them or put yourself a diagnosis. It's very crucial that you always seek help with a professional so that when you feel not well, when you feel anxious, when you feel exhausted, depressed, so go and seek a mental health professional in order to get a diagnosis from there.
For people to recognize that, they might be, in a running every day to do things. How do they get the time to say, okay, now I have an issue?
It's not that easy, but it's also not hard. I mean, it's really in the moment that you feel for a longer time period, let's say maybe 2 weeks or more, that you feel low. So it really also depends. Is it an anxiety? Is it an addiction or whatever? But if you feel that also you're restricted in your social behavior, that affects your family relations and your work abilities, in this moment, you should really consider that these symptoms are severe and that you should seek a professional in order to check with this professional what's behind these symptoms.
And you speak about seeking a professional, looking for a professional to help you. But in many parts of the world, people might not have the financial ability to do so. Is there something before seeking a professional help if they can't afford it?
Yeah, that's very unfortunate that we're not all having, of course, this easy access, especially access to psychiatrists, psychologists, super difficult also because there are not enough professionals to treat all the people that would need help. So a good idea is also to seek first help with your general practitioner. Maybe also you have an insurance, you may ask. Maybe they have some support in guiding you or having first telemedical offer, to help you in guidance in what steps you could do next. I think it's really crucial to find a therapist. Otherwise, what you could do is also, consult the internet. Maybe there is a online support. There might be web pages that they offer also online programs or therapist access via a web page.
Could doing more sport or practicing yoga, meditation be a first step to regain balance?
Well, definitely, yes. As I mentioned in the introduction, mental health issue mainly stems from high stress. So all what you do to reduce this stress level is good and will help you to prevent mental disorders. It can be, for some people, it's yoga, it's jogging, it's going out. For some people, it's reading a book on the sofas. But try to figure out for yourself what is doing good for yourself, what helps you to reduce stress, and then practice that frequently, especially in times of stress or high workload. Especially then, you need these resources and these little islands for you during the day that you can lower your stress level.
Lowering the stress level is the number one for mental health issues. How does that interest insurance companies? Why should they care about that?
They should care because it has a huge preventive side. So by lowering your stress and by preventing mental disorders, we can avoid long-term and severe courses of mental illness, which obviously cost a lot in our system. So by preventing them, we can save costs as a society.
Can you actually have some figures where you say, look, if you work on prevention, you will save that much money?
I wish I had. Now I don't. I'm not having clear figures, but there are many studies that prove it. And why I'm not having a very clear figure, it's because it's also diverse. So it depends the intensity of the prevention. It also depends the indication,
How do you convince insurance companies that they should put money in something that is not very clear and that they don't have a clear return on investment?
There is clear evidence, and also there are products that proven their preventive manners. But it always depends in the end the case, right? To understand mental health or a mental disorder, that's not one thing. That's really diverse diseases. It has a diverse impact. So it's always important to consider how many people are affected within this indication. How well can you prevent it? What would be the cost of prevention? And this in the end will give you a balance. But in the end, and this I can assure you, is like it will pay off. So prevention always pays off in mental disorders.
And generally in life, prevention is cheaper than curing. But when you go to see a psychologist, someone like you, a professional in this, it's about transformation. It's about training a person, helping them take new habits, I suppose. How do you accompany this transformation, motivate people to come back, incentivize them?
Yeah, that's very crucial. So therapy really means to reflect on your behavior, on your way of thinking, on your emotions, and then to figure out what's the problem. So a main part of psychotherapy is really to understand the problem and the issues you experience currently. And then based on that, you can elaborate, let's say, a model or to really start understanding the functioning of this person. And then try to think of what interventions would fit. So with what interventions you can start breaking maybe certain causes that lead to bad feeling or experience. And then you can practice on these individual interventions. And practice is then the other main thing. It's really it's hard work. So that means you need to change, which is never easy. And you need to change in your daily life as well. So you really need to be open to try new things. Is it from maybe start saying no to stuff, or is it doing more physical activity? But it needs a change, and that needs time and efforts.
You have these sessions with the psychologist, and then in between sessions, I assume you give some exercises that the person has to do.
Right. Yes. So there are various methods of psychotherapy, and some of these methods, they force it more or less, this between session exercises. I myself, I'm a fan of it. I think that is really crucial because I'm convinced that psychotherapy is not taking place in the session itself, but is actually taking place in the daily life of the patient, which is outside the session. That means it can be exercises, for instance, on how to rethink in a more positive way. Um, but it can be also, let's say, observational tasks. Maybe a first step would actually more be to just observe how am I behaving in a certain situation? What's going on with my thoughts, with my feelings, with my body reactions when I'm in a conflict situation? And then you need to first understand before you then maybe start practicing. Okay, in a conflict situation, when I realize I'm getting super nervous or anxious, my intervention first would be take a deep breath. Try to relax, try to focus on yourself, on your state. And then with this more clear mind through lowering your stress level in the conflict, you are then maybe able to widen your ideas on what to say, or on what to respond. So it can be diverse, but again, this was one example, and it's again really important to apply it in your daily life and to give yourself the chance to practice a lot.
You speak about removing the stress. Do you think that social media, the new technologies can have a big impact on our mental health?
Yes, there is a lot of evidence that social media is one part that can cause stress. On the one hand, because it takes a lot of time for us to follow up, but also because there happen mechanisms like a social comparison. And this social comparison can induce a lot of stress and also lower our self-esteem, for instance.
You're founder of a startup in Switzerland. Do you want to tell us about it?
Yes, I'm the founder and CEO of ELA, Blended Psychotherapy. So at ELA, we develop a medical device software that you can use within psychotherapy. So the psychologists apply this software together with the patient. And that's this blended setting. So the mix of on-site sessions and online psychotherapy. And that fosters exactly what I mentioned before, we consider as very relevant for therapy success. It fosters this exercise between session. So the therapy not only takes place in the therapy session, but the therapist can then, via the app, allocate certain exercises, questionnaires, journals to the patient's mobile phone, and the patient can then practice also between sessions.
Do you have an example of exercise that you would advise? When you have a top manager, super stressed, so running a Zurich-based insurance company, and he or she now is going sessions with you. What kind of exercise are they going to do through this app?
Yes. The great thing with our app is we can tell to this manager that, hey, you don't need to wait for your first therapy session, which takes place in maybe 8 weeks because my schedule is full. But I can already give you now the application. And in these 8 weeks, until we see us for the first time, you already get some exercises to prepare for our first therapy session. So you have the chance to learn about mental health, psychotherapy. What can you do yourself in treatment? You can already also answer to a set of questionnaires so that I can see when we meet first already a check on your symptoms. So I have already a first impression on your symptom severity and also what are your goals, what are your current problems for therapy. Based on this information, we can then start together our sessions. And then also between sessions, I can allocate to this manager. Maybe it's about also your needs and values in life. So we have a module to exercise on them. What's actually important to me? Is it only my job and performing on a high level? Or do I maybe also have a family or some hobbies? I would like to give it more space in my life again. We have other modules. For instance, if we detect that it's maybe a depression this person is suffering from, there are also psychoeducational parts on what is a depression, how long can it take, how is it treated. Then we have modules on increasing your activity level, start thinking in a more positive way. And once you complete this modules between sessions, maybe the patient will improve and we will decide to terminate the treatment, because maybe this manager doesn't have time to go for 1 year or whatever. So maybe like some more short-term therapy, maybe half a year, and then says, okay, now I feel better. And then we have a module also to help how to terminate the treatment and also what can you do afterwards. And then we can say goodbye to each other from the therapist on-site sessions, but the patient can still continue on his application to prevent a relapse on these symptoms.
What is your business model? Do you sell memberships or are you sponsored by insurance companies? How does that work?
Our business model is B2B, so that means we address now psychiatric clinics, for instance, that they buy our solution and they offer then this solution to their patients. And we have an offer in the inpatient but also outpatient setting. In the outpatient setting, obviously, we have further customers like group practices, but also single therapists. So all of them are actually convinced from this new methodology and this evidence in higher effectiveness and also cost efficiency. So they want to offer that to their patients for a better and more modern treatment.
Right. Are there many apps doing this kind of work at the moment?
There are many apps in supporting mental health. What is important to understand is that many of these apps work in a well-being area. So for instance, Headspace is super famous. You can use it for meditation and it will help to lower your stress. But
I've used it actually, yeah.
Yes, and it's great, But what ELA does, we are a medical device. That means we are intended to be used in a clinical setting. So with patients that they are diagnosed from a disease and also applied from therapists, so from professionals to their patients. And in this blended setting again, so where you not only have the online app that you need to practice yourself as a patient and not having the guidance and support from a professional. With ELA in this blended setting, you get this guidance support from a professional. And in this niche of blended psychotherapy with medical devices, we are the first one in Switzerland offering this solution. And also if you look in Europe, there are only a few competitors.
What are your main competitors in Europe?
In Europe, actually, there is a company, it's called Mind District from the Netherlands. They are already very established on the market. They're quite old because the Netherlands started way earlier with digitization in healthcare than Switzerland did. They have a nice product for blended care in the inpatient setting, and also it's used from some clinics in Switzerland. What we can offer now is also cover the full patient journey, as I mentioned before, to use the waiting time also for relapse prevention, and next to inpatient setting as well, also in the outpatient setting. That's where we can extend.
Florence, what is your goal for the next 2 to 3 months? What do you wish for your company?
The main goal now is to certify our product as medical device. We finished our development of the software, and now it's about the registration with Swiss Medics. This is the main milestone, which is now in Q2. And once we have that, we are free for the market and we can bring our product to more customers, because all the applications we had now were within research and pilot testings. And now, once we're certified, we can freely distribute it on the Swiss and European market.
Great, Florence. It's been a great pleasure. I wish you great success with your app, and I hope you will help a lot of people with it. Thank you very much for your time and all the best. You take care.
Thank you very much, Phil. Take care.
Ciao, ciao.
That's all for today's episode, where we brought you some of the latest and greatest from the training, technology, and innovation worlds. Thanks for listening, and thanks to our guests for sharing their valuable insight with us. Do you struggle to capture the knowledge of your experts? Contact us. We'll record engaging interviews with them for you to share. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our channel and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. You can also find us on YouTube or LinkedIn, where you can watch the full video of this interview and many others. This interview was made possible thanks to our colleagues Laura Servadio for the coordination of this interview and Patrice Sejanov for a powerful remote interview studio based on AI. Until next time, stay safe and stay insured. Cheers!